Legends of the Dark Knight 6-10 contain Grant Morrison's epic Batman tale, Gothic, also known as Gothic, a romance, in reference to its heavy use of literary romanticism. This would be Morrison's second work, the first being Arkham Asylum's Serious House on Serious Earth, on Batman before helming the Batman ongoing title and expanding on the ideas presented in this volume, as well as his Arkham Asylum original graphic novel. At first glance, the story seems rather straightforward, an occult mystery in the vein of classic pulp adventures, taking influence in particular from Batman's early enemy, the Monk. However, these surface-level traits are only the beginning in Morrison's character-defining story arc. Gothic presents a Batman that is not psychologically fractured. Classic comics would present an internal struggle between the persona of Bruce Wayne and the Batman, never truly deciding who the real man is and where the lines of identity are drawn. Morrison subverts this by creating a Batman that is sure of his identity. In an opening dream sequence, we see a young Bruce Wayne that, when faced with confusion, transforms into an adult Bruce, though still dressed in a child's clothes, but commenting on his discomfort in them. This uniform is then traded for the costume of the Batman after he sees a large cross, immediately connecting the symbolism associated with the Judeo-Christian cross to the Batman. More on that later. Batman says that he is now a master, and this introduces us to the purpose of the Batman identity: control. Bruce Wayne was a child who lost his parents and filled the void of his inaction with a cowled figure that could maintain control. This separation between Bruce and Batman is then mended when we see a young Bruce wearing a batsuit too big for him crying out for his father, indicating that Batman must still have the same insecurities as Bruce Wayne because that is who he always is. The Batman may have power, but under the cowl he is always guided by the man, and so there is no magical control that asserts itself just because Bruce is in a batsuit. He is still a child, subject to a harsh trauma. That trauma may have spawned the need for Batman, but it does not replace or fight Bruce's true nature. The Batman does not guarantee control, but he promises a pursuit of it, which is the very nature of the promise he made in the memory of his parents. The Batman will never, and has never, created a world that is rid of crime, but his presence discourages some of it, and he is always present in an attempt to stop it. The nature of the Batman is one of action, but this action is always in a causal relationship to the inaction that cost Bruce his parents. Batman's lack of control is best illustrated when the mobsters of Gotham City, hunted by the mysterious Mr. Whisper, call the Dark Knight using an inverted bat signal. Batman is furious at them for perverting his symbol, but he had no control over their doing so. The Batman is an exemplar. His presence is in an attempt to perpetuate what he deems moral behavior, but it still does not guarantee it. Thus, the mob is still active despite their simultaneous need and fear of Batman. The dream sequences are of a time when Bruce was away at a boarding school. The school, according to Bruce's friend Robert, is hell. Robert says this just before he disappears. Bruce, lurking outside the headmaster's office knowing something out of the ordinary is going on, is caught. The headmaster, known as Winchester, but later revealed to be Mr. Whisper, as well as an ancient monk by the name of Manfred, punishes Bruce as he stares at the head of his friend Robert inside of a trash can. This finally forces Bruce to call in his father, who takes him back home, and, to celebrate Bruce's return, they go out and see a movie. Batman's savior from hell was his father, but his headmaster and call for rescue is what inadvertently killed his parents and created the Batman. A paradox develops here as Bruce was both an active and inactive instrument in the creating of Batman. Bruce's inaction in the moment forced him to bear witness to his parents' death, and his action in calling in his father to save him from hell led to their death. This complexity further develops the relationship between Batman and Bruce Wayne as one. Just like the Batman persona does not promise control, the Bruce Wayne persona does not promise lack of control, and the two are further illustrated to be one. Along with establishing who Bruce Wayne and Batman are, Morrison develops a theme of their image as satanic through a recurring mention of hell. Batman says that the mobsters have made Gotham hell, and so they must endure it. However, just before that encounter, Batman declares himself the king of hell. This comes back to the connection made in the dream sequence when the presence of a cross was linked to Batman. Another connection is made when the inverted bat signal parallels our first real view of Batman before calling himself the king of hell, which is also inverted. When the mob is calling on Batman, they are really calling on the satanic ruler of Gotham to strike a deal. Batman's hellish justice is an adopted behavior going back to his father, who rescued him from the boarding school which was deemed hell. Bruce's first hell is traded for another when he returns to Gotham City and becomes the Batman. The Batman is meant to be an escape from that hell, a form created out of necessity that is separate from Bruce. But as we've illustrated, Morrison's Bruce Wayne and Batman are one identity, not two. Mr. Whisper remarks that being Batman must be hell. This is meant as a direct contrast to what we've seen Batman do in this story, namely, have the resources and equipment to escape death traps, leverage money in order to gain information, and travel halfway around the world easily just to pursue one lead when on a case. Being Batman sounds like it would be incredible, but as the ruler of hell rather than our conventional hero, this is not an easy life. Batman's place as a satanic ruler of hell helps to introduce Morrison's idea of Batman being larger than life. Not only is being Batman a difficult life to lead, but the example and purpose of the identity are eternal concepts. To illustrate this, Morrison several times references the number 8. In his first meeting with Mr. Whisper, Batman is rescuing a man named Octavio, a name that comes from Octavius, meaning 8. Bruce as a child was going to be the 8th victim of Mr. Whisper during his time as headmaster of Bruce's school. And Bruce was 8 years old when his parents were killed. The number 8 has several meanings, but the main one we are focused on is the one dealing with religion. In the Book of Revelations, the Antichrist is said to be the 8th king. With Gotham as hell, Batman fills this role. Add that to the religious imagery throughout the book noted earlier when Bruce Wayne is connected to the symbol of the cross in his dream and the inverted bat signal, which is later connected to an image of an inverted cross. This is a Batman that, as mentioned before, represents eternal concepts. As the ruler of hell, he serves out punishment to those who act immorally. Note that this links to Bruce and Batman's paradoxical ability and lack of ability to act. Freedom of choice being the cornerstone of all moral philosophy, for we cannot punish someone who is not acting of their own accord. Thus, Batman is sound in saying that Gotham for the mobsters is a hell of their own making. In this way, Batman is not evil, which is often associated with satanic figures. Batman is merely an instrument of justice that punishes the wicked for their acts, but through the religious allusions to hell, that punishment and justice are eternal. This not only makes Batman, but also Bruce Wayne, greater than mere men. But what is a hero without his villain? Batman is able to personify this thanks to his opponent, Mr. Whisper, also known as Winchester during Bruce's schoolboy days, and 300 years before that as Manfred, a monk that made a deal with the devil. As a monk, Manfred fell victim to the sin of pride, and, believing himself to be worthy of longer life, after the plague had hit Europe, he called on the devil to grant him 300 years of extended life. After his bargain is struck, he traveled the world to find a way to cheat the devil out of his deal. In doing so, he eventually runs into a group of mobsters that kill him for kidnapping and killing children. 20 years later, Whisper returns to kill these mobsters while working on his grand plan to free himself of his deal with the devil with the help of a renovated Gotham Cathedral. The clearest point to mark with Mr. Whisper is that he is immediately reminiscent of the occult villain the Monk from Detective Comics number 31. However, his purpose goes deeper than a small reference, such as the impact of the story's title on its characters. The name of the story arc is discussed in Batman's research. He says that Gothic is a word derived from Gothic, and it means magical. Gothic is also the root word of Gotham, indicating that Gotham is inherently a place of great mysticism and imagination. Something that is often forgotten thanks to the mobster element who are killed off here by Mr. Whisper to make the point that the magic of Gotham is more powerful than the simple street-level crime, and the eternal symbolism of Batman is greater than the Gotham City-obsessed grounded crime fighter many writers take him for. In fighting Mr. Whisper, Bruce has to travel to Lake Des, which immediately makes the point that Batman is a global concept, which is what Morrison has always intended for the character, rather than this constant struggle with street crime, since Batman would be self-aware enough to analyze his symbol's power as well as the practical application of vigilantism. If Batman needs to be outside of Gotham, he will be. There is more emphasis placed on his ability to be a universal idea here thanks to Mr. Whisper, who forces Batman to be greater than merely street level. For how would Batman take on a 300-year-old devil-powered mystical mad monk without being an equal to the devil himself? This is not to downplay Gotham's importance, for it is the very root of Batman's existence in the first place, but it is to say that Batman is not trapped in Gotham the way Gothic literature depicts many of its protagonists as bound to a particular location. Keeping with literary tradition, Mr. Whisper's original name, Manfred, is in reference to Lord Byron's poem of the same name. This is a natural place of inspiration, as Batman is defined as a Byronic hero, that is, a character with great arrogance, antisocial behavior, in exile, and verging on what would be known as an anti-hero. The original Byronic hero can be traced as far back as Paradise Lost with Satan. Lord Byron's poem, Manfred, details the life of a nobleman who is tortured by the death of his love. Throughout the poem, Manfred takes every opportunity to bypass authority, choosing death over submission with the final words, "'Tis not so difficult to die." Ironically, Manfred in this story is not guilt-ridden and is actually seeking to escape death at all costs. Batman, on the other hand, is tortured over the death of someone he loves and does not submit to authority, both characters coming to form a hero in the Byronic tradition and embodying the literary Manfred. This gives way to the idea that Mr. Whisper might be more self-aware than one might initially think. When Batman is caught in an intentionally elaborate and unnecessarily complicated death trap, Mr. Whisper details his entire plan to him, and then says he isn't sure why he did that. Mr. Whisper also spends a majority of the story quoting famous works of literature that align very closely with his own characterization. As if compelled, Mr. Whisper is creating the story that is necessary to elevate Batman to his level, Bat-God rather than street-level vigilante. The references include songs, poems, and plays. Issue 1 has him singing Oranges and Lemons, a song interpreted to mean the killing of children or public executions, which is exactly what Mr. Whisper has spent his past 300 years doing. He kills a man at a performance of Don Giovanni after saying he hates the ending. The play ends with the arrogant and abusive Don Giovanni getting dragged to hell, exactly what Mr. Whisper fears will happen to him. He sends a letter with the opening lines of Shakespeare's Twelfth Night, which is a play about mistaken identity, but also about being consumed by one's identity, which is the central theme in Batman's melding of the Bruce Wayne and Batman personas. While trying to investigate Mr. Whisper, Bruce hears a recording of Ode to Nightingale, which is a poem about the ideal versus actual state of the world, something that provides the stepping stone of Batman becoming a godlike ideal over his more common interpretations as a purely response-based vigilante focusing on the reality of crime. The recording Bruce listens to also contains his father's voice, which is a reminder of Bruce's childhood escape from hell thanks to his father and his similar and inherited place in the hell of Gotham City. Also remember that it is Mr. Whisper's actions that caused the death of Bruce's parents, since he wouldn't have been home if not for Mr. Whisper's killings. The final reference is when a young woman sings Ring Around the Rosie, a song that came about due to the plague outbreak in Europe and referring to the people who died there. The girl turns out to be the devil and, like Don Giovanni, the arrogant and abusive Manfred is dragged to hell. Poetic justice. The final point to make about Batman Gothic is in reference to the Gotham Cathedral. The cathedral, as Bruce explains, is designed to focus all stress upwards through an ogave design. This is paired with an acoustical layout that creates a spiritual alchemy. Mr. Whisper planned to use this design to create a soul trap inspired by the American Indians to trick Satan while he hid his soul in a chain which caused him to lose his shadow. The magic Mr. Whisper is calling on is powered by tragedy, the same way Batman's motivation is always the loss of his parents. In making his plan to trick Satan, he merely makes him stronger, Satan in this case being Batman, who is further motivated by every death Mr. Whisper commits. This is made all the more true when we meet the girl who turns out to be the true Satan, who let Batman defeat Mr. Whisper before taking him to hell, and then sends Bruce Mr. Whisper's heart. Satan wasn't fooled and did not need Batman to defeat Mr. Whisper, but Mr. Whisper's challenge is what allowed us to see Batman as an eternal concept in the first place. Batman Gothic is only a small piece of what Grant Morrison has to say on the character. For every literary reference, there are twice as many different parallels to how it works in relation to his view of Batman. From dialogue to art to ideas to story, Batman Gothic is brilliant, especially for those who want a sample of what Morrison's run on Batman would later entail.